All right, this is the chapter 7 review that you guys had for homework. I'm going to go over all the questions with all the work. This is going to be posted on Canvas as well, so you guys could check your work. 7.1, angles of polygons. The first question says, find the sum of the measures of the interior angles of a regular 30gon. Then find the measure of each interior and each exterior. So I told you guys there's a difference between sum and each. Anytime you see the word each, you are going to be dividing. So looking at this first question, for this one, I'm going to do first find the sum of the measure of the interior. So in order to find the sum of the measure, you have to use the formula. The formula was, if you forgot, n minus 2 times 180. N meaning the number of sides. So if this is a 30gon, I'm going to use 30 minus 2 times 180. 30 minus 2 is going to give me 28 times 180. And for my sum, I'm going to get 5,040 degrees. All right, looking at the next thing, they asked for each interior angle. So there was a formula for that. The formula was n minus 2 times 180 divided by n. Again, n being the number of sides. So I'm going to have 30 minus 2 times 180. Ooh, parentheses should go this way. So I'm going to have 28 actually divided by 30. So I'm going to get 5,040 divided by 30. And if I solve that, I'm going to get 168. That's for my interior angles. Okay, exterior angles. Exterior is always going to equal 360. So I'm taking 360 and I'm dividing it by the number of sides, which is 30. If I simplify that, I'm going to get 12 degrees. All right, so I have 12 degrees for my exterior angles. Okay, that's for number 1. There's 3 answers. Number 2, they want me to solve for x. So first thing I'm going to do is I have to know the measure of my interior. So in order for me to find that, I'm going to count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to take 6 minus 2 times 180. I'm going to get 4 times 180 and 720. So I know my interior, the sum, is going to be 720. And now all I have to do is add everything and set it equal to 720. So I'm going to have x plus 120 plus 97 plus 130 plus 150. Don't forget that 90 is going to equal 720. Adding everything together, you guys are going to have a calculator, so that should be pretty easy for you. I'm going to have x plus 587 equals 720. Subtract 587 from both sides. And x is going to equal 133 degrees. Looking at number 3, I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I have to find the measure of the sum of the interior. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is going to be 7. So I'm going to have 7 minus 2 times 180. 5 times 180. That's going to give me 900. So the interior is 900 degrees. And same thing as before, add everything. X plus 160 plus 2x plus 125 plus 110, plus 112 plus 147 equals 900. Add everything together. You're going to get 3x plus 654. Subtract 654 from 900. 3x equals 246. Divide by 3. X equals 82 degrees. All right, looking at number 4, exterior is always going to equal 360. So I'm taking all my exterior angles. 49 plus 7x plus 83 plus 33, God bless you, plus 6x equals 360. I'm going to get 13x plus 165 equals 360. Subtract 165. 13x equals 195. Divide by 13. X equals 15. Okay, that's for 7-1. So 7-2. Properties of a parallelogram. You have to remember your properties for your parallelogram. You guys have a flow chart of this on Canvas, and you have multiple reviews to solve for these. Things we need to know of parallelograms. Opposite angles are congruent. So if this angle is 101, angle B is also 101. And then something else we know about parallelograms. Consecutive angles are supplementary. I have a pair of consecutive angles right here. So all I'm going to do is take, and I'm going to subtract from 180. It's going to leave me with 79. So A equals 79 degrees. Looking at number 6. Same thing, opposite angles are congruent. So if this is 103, this is also equal to 103. I'm going to subtract 16. And B is going to equal 87. Okay, segments are congruent. Opposite segments are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent. So this is going to equal 18. So I'm going to add 18 to both, add 10 to both sides. And A is going to equal 28. So those are my two answers for A and B. Looking at 7, diagonals bisect each other. Okay, they bisect each other. So this one is going to equal 11. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. C is going to equal 6. And then this equals 14. Subtract 4. And D is going to equal 10. So those are my two answers for this one. All right, 7-3. Checking 7-3. It says, state which theorem you can use to show that the quadrilaterals, the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if you're looking at the first one, what do I know? Looking at my sides. Opposite sides, parallelogram, opposite sides, converse. How do I know it's converse? Because they're telling me it is a parallelogram. What can I use to find that it is a parallelogram? So opposite sides are congruent here, so it's parallelogram. Opposite sides, and this is again converse. Do not forget whether it's converse or not. You have to remember. Looking at 11, I'm looking at my diagonals. My diagonals are congruent, so this is going to be parallelogram, diagonal, converse. And looking at 12, I have my angles. Opposite angles are congruent. So this is going to be parallelogram, opposite angles, converse. Okay, so please study your theorems. You guys have to know your theorems. You will have one proof completely blank on the test. Find the value of x and y that makes the quadrilateral a parallelogram. So again, looking at this, what do we know about parallelograms? Opposite sides are congruent. So we're going to set them equal. So I'm going to have, we'll do x first. I have 4x minus 7 equals, or plus 7, sorry, 12 minus 1. I'm going to go ahead and subtracting 4x from both sides. And I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I'm going to have 8 equals 8x, divide by 8. X equals 1. Going ahead, looking at y. Y plus 1 equals 3y minus 11. Subtracting y. And then I'm going to add 11 to the other side. I'm going to get 12 equals 2y. Divide by 2. Y is going to equal 6. Looking at the next one, 14. Again, find the value of x that makes the quadrilateral a parallelogram. We know that our diagonals bisect each other, so these are going to be congruent. So I'm going to have 4x equals 6x minus 8. Subtract 6x. I'm going to get negative 2x equals negative 8. Divide by negative 2. Don't forget the sign. And x is going to equal 4. And that's my answer for x. Okay, and I believe that's it for 7-3. All right, looking at 7-4 on the next page. Classify the special quadrilaterals. Key thing here, I got a lot of questions on. Aren't they all quadrilaterals? Yes, but you have special quadrilaterals. And then explain your reasoning. So looking at this one, all 4 sides are congruent. Okay, when it's giving me all 4 sides congruent, but they're not telling me all my angles are congruent, it has to be a rhombus. So this is a rhombus. And the only one they're showing me that I can prove is that all 4 sides are congruent. I have 4 congruent sides. That's the only one that falls in that category. Could it be a square? They're not giving me enough information to show you that it's a square. So it has to be a rhombus. All right, looking at 17. This one has parallel sides, okay? 2 pairs of parallel sides. And they're opposite sides. So this is going to be a parallelogram. Okay, that's the definition of a parallelogram. Okay, you have 2 pairs of opposite sides. So, opposite sides are parallel. Okay, that's my reasoning. Looking at 18, this has to be a square. How do I know it's a square? You have 4 congruent sides. And my angles are 90 degrees. Okay, that's another thing. My angles are 90 degrees. All right, the next question. Excuse me, number 19. Find the length of the diagonals of the rectangle where WY equals this and ZX or XZ equals that. So they're asking me to find the length, not X. So if you want, if it helps you, for all means, draw it. Please make sure when you're drawing your shapes and they're giving it to you, you have to follow it in a specific order. You cannot go across. So W, X, Y, Z, I went around. You cannot go across when you're writing your letters. Okay, so what do we know about our diagonals for a rectangle? They're all congruent. So what I'm going to do for this question is I'm going to set them equal to each other. I'm going to have 3x minus 26 equals negative 2x plus 34. I'm going to add 2x to the other side. I'm going to get 5x minus 26 equals 34. Add 26 to both sides to get rid of it. 5x equals 60, divide by 5. X is going to equal 12. Again, they're not asking me for x. They're asking me for the length of the diagonals. So it doesn't matter which one I plug it into as long as I solve it correctly. So I'll just show you I'm plugging it into both. I'm going to have negative 2 times 12 plus 34. This is going to give me negative 24 plus 34, which is 10. If you plugged it into the last one, the other side, which was xz, solving it, you have 3 times 12 minus 26. It's going to give me 36 minus 26, which still gives me 10. So again, they're asking for the length, not for x. And the last lesson, 7.5, you need to use the diagram to help you with this. Find the measure of each angle in the isosceles trapezoid. So with isosceles trapezoid, you have to remember your base angles are congruent. So if this angle over here is 58, I know Z is also going to be 58. And then X and W are congruent. So let me go ahead and write that down. I know angle Z is 58. And they also gave me angle Y, which was 58. How am I solving for W and X? These angles are consecutive. So that means they're going to add to equal 180. So all I have to do next is subtract 180 minus 58. That's 122. So now I know angle W is 122 and angle X is 122. So I found all my angles. All right, looking at the next question, it says find the length of the mid-segment. There is a formula for mid-segment. I'm going to write it down just in case we forgot. Base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. So looking at it, I have 39 and 13. Does not matter the order when you're adding. So I'm adding 39 plus 13, and I'm dividing it by 2. I'm going to get 52 divided by 2, and the length of the mid-segment is 26. Looking at 24, it says a kite has an angle measure of 7x, 65 and 85, and 105. Find the value of x, and they're asking me to do something else. What are the measures of the angles that are congruent? So first, it's a kite. A kite is a quadrilateral, so I know it has 4 sides. So the interior, the sum of the interior is going to be 360. So I don't have to draw it. If you want, you can. I'm going to have 7x plus 65 plus 85 plus 105 equals 360. I'm solving for x. 7x plus 255 equals 360. Subtract 255 from both sides. I'm going to hit 7x equals 105. Divide both sides by 7. X is going to give me 15. That's one of my answers. Now it asks, What are the measures of the angles that are congruent? So looking at it, I have to plug it in. 7 times 15, that's going to give me 105. So x is 15, and the congruent angles were 105. So you should have had 2 answers for that. All right, looking at 26. Question says, give the most specific name of the quadrilateral. Explain your reasoning. So looking at 26, this is a trapezoid. How do I know it's a trapezoid? I have one pair of parallel sides. Okay, I only have one pair of parallel sides. Looking at 27, they're not giving me my angles. They're not telling me my angles are 90 degrees, so it's not a square. It's not being specific enough. So this has to be a rhombus. How do I know it's a rhombus? Because my 4 congruent sides. If you put a square, it would be wrong. Okay, so keep in mind this is not a square, this is a rhombus, because they're not giving me enough information, so it's not being specific enough. And the last one, looking at 28, this is a rectangle. And with a rectangle, how do I know it's a rectangle? I have 4 right angles. Okay. Any questions on the review? Okay. Please study question. Yeah.
I got the same answer, but I didn't do it that way.
That's fine. There's multiple ways you can do it. How did you do it?
I just guessed. I drew it and I just said 105 is probably the biggest one since those 2 are congruent.
Okay, so what you got? What?
I got 15 too, but I just kind of guessed that 105 would be here since that's the biggest angle.
What question was that for?
Number 24.
24. So you got 15?
Yeah, but I didn't think about the whole 360 thing.
You have to know how to. Oh, okay, because you thought it was okay. I see how you did it. You're like, okay, 105 is the largest angle, so the other side has to also be 105. I'm not going to say it's always going to be the largest angle, but that's fine.
Okay.
Any more questions on the review? No? Okay. You guys, please study for your test. Please study. You are going to have one proof completely blank.